All right, Huber. One more day
Boom.
to talk about GDC stuff. You played Assassin's Creed Origins.
Sure did.
I played a little bit of it.
Yeah, big, giant, massive game.
Yeah. So you know what a big, giant, massive game has a lot of?
Loot.
Everything, really. But it has a lot of bugs.
Yes.
And so we're starting off today with the last of the sessions that I sat in, and the title of this talk is pretty out there: monitoring and validation of world design data.
Okay. I love this.
But basically, what it comes down to is the alternate title is like how I was able to listen to music at work more, something like that. But what it comes down to is Assassin's Creed Origins is gigantic.
Yeah.
It has a lot of objects and systems and loot that Assassin's Creed games didn't have to worry about before. And AI, where AI are going to work, going to eat dinner, going to bed, having to walk back and forth to all of these different points, all these villages and gameplay components, zip lines to be accounted for, all of this stuff.
So many things.
Talking about if they put a zip line down and then somebody later does a vegetation pass and then somehow this palm tree accidentally got put where the zip line is and so you just hit the palm tree and you can't complete the thing.
It blows my mind how
or if somebody
games like this can even work.
Yeah, or if somebody changes the height of a pillar but you put a zip line, somebody else put a zip line on top of that pillar and now the angle's wrong and he's just not going to fall correctly and all of this crazy stuff, that would just take forever. And he described this kind of typical scenario where someone would come into his office and say, hey, this thing is broken, I don't know exactly what's wrong with it, etc. And then he goes around and he tries to see, he's like, okay, well, is our ladders broken for anyone else? And he's just okay, you have to figure out the scope and the scale of everything and sort out how big of a problem is this? Is this a problem just in this one spot, or is this a problem with ladders everywhere across the whole world?
Oh my gosh. That is so
and
scary.
So
oh my gosh.
What they essentially did was they essentially crafted an AI system to bug test the whole game on a daily basis. So they would write scripts to check for all of these different things, for
Terminator.
Collision,
Terminator's
for
real,
AI
by the way.
pathing, all of this stuff, hundreds of thousands and millions of different things, and they would get and then they would get back the reports to see, okay, we found 3 problems with ladders today, or we found 200 problems with zip lines, so okay, something's wrong with zip lines, we gotta address it, but very quickly be able to identify how big the problem is and what they need to do to change it, and who broke what, because I think he actually had a slide that asked who breaks things, and the answer was everyone.
Yep.
And he talked about how they showed the mesh that the AI soldiers can walk on, and well, if somebody changes some little detail in these shield cover points that you use, well, then that actually can block off the mesh, and now the AI can't walk to this point that they're trying to walk, and basically you would end up to it's the AI just walking into a wall and not going where they're going, or having a ballista, and for whatever reason some change in the staircases keeps the AI from being able to walk up and use that ballista, which is one of the things they're saying is being able to use AI for this kind of thing, to check all of these things, to make sure that everything works correctly. And in some instances is more efficient than somebody doing that manually, because if you're in combat, you can't really necessarily tell that the AI isn't going to that ballista because they can't get there. You just think it's oh, nobody's using that. So it really helps them see a better picture of everything that's going on, and keep it organized and allow them to prioritize all of that stuff. So yeah, you talked about the world was 10 times bigger than Syndicate, which you probably know going through it.
Yeah, it's so big.
Let's see if I can find any more. Yeah, so the daily validation would take 3 hours, and would do, at one point it was doing 12 reports on 520 locations, which amounted to and then they also had 5 million procedurally generated objects in the world that it was also testing.
Crazy. So, Skynet is real.
They also have this thing called Atlas, which is like a Google Maps for Assassin's Creed Origins. And so when they would do these reports, they could also integrate them into Atlas and see like red dots wherever these problems were to like exactly like map it out.
Yeah. Have they been ever able to do anything like this with game development? This seems pretty groundbreaking. Kind of just program the game.
It's not something that Ubisoft seems to have done before.
Yeah.
They developed it for Assassin's Creed Origins. But yeah, I don't know what systems other people use.
Yeah.
But one thing that though he was talking about was, it allowed them to be like the results of it was that it allowed them to be more proactive, to be able to like find bugs without having people like constantly going in and anyways, he's like the manpower would have been impossible anyways to go in and test everything by hand on a constant basis. And so like they could see the problem and they could go in there and they fix it rather than spending a lot of time figuring out what the problem actually is. And then it also gave them the confidence to be able to iterate and make changes because they're not constantly afraid of what they're going to break and not know what they broke.
Yeah.
It's like they can just make the change and then we can see what this is and then like we can account and like just keep adding more stuff to the world without,
make your game better.
Yeah, make your game better.
Straight up.
And then when
That's so
when
cool.
a potential new problem is found that isn't part of their system, then they just write a new test to put into the checks for the next day. So
magicians.
Yeah. And then another thing that they talked about is it moved bug fixing to an earlier part in production. Because they were fixing bugs as they're going along earlier in the process rather than being, okay, this game's shipping in 2-3 months.
Time to clean up the bugs.
Yeah, clean up everything, find all the bugs. Like they actually had most of it front loaded, so they didn't have to worry about it as much at the end.
Nice. Better product for us all.
So, as I talked about on the first day, for me, GDC, it's not just about running around, seeing games, and going to sessions. It's about seeing people.
Yeah.
And so, got to see Jeremy Hoffman.
Nice.
Got to see Megan Rue.
Nice.
Got to see Daniel Kaiser.
Nice.
Got to see some of my
some
of my other contacts. Of course, like thank you to everyone who came by and said hi that are Easy Allies fans.
What were they doing with Fortnite?
They had a mechanical bull, but with like a llama costume over it.
Okay.
And people were like riding the llama.
Okay.
And they also had like some competitions and stuff going on.
Yeah, I think I did hear about that actually.
But yeah, so DK, Jeremy, and Megan all work for Epic, and I went over. I had found Megan easily. I ran into Jeremy in the hallway, but they had two booths. So Megan was kind of like at the developer more focused booths, while that was like just the Epic stuff and Unreal Engine and all that. Whereas Daniel Kaiser was at what they call the partner booth, where they're just showing off like all the different games that people were using on Unreal Engine. Also giving out free beer and cookies, which that line was too long for me to deal with.
That longest line there, probably free beer.
But anyway, so I kept circling. That booth was so packed full of people. It was like where the heck is Daniel Kaiser at? And then I finally found him and met up with him. And like immediately he goes into PR mode. Like telling me, like, did you see that game over there? Did you see? We got Soul Calibur 6. You're an Ace Combat guy, right? I'm like, no, I'm not. What do you mean? It's like, oh, you're racing games. I knew it was some kind of vehicle. I was like, okay, DK. But he did talk me into playing a little game called I believe it's called Rite of Ilk. I had to look it up later.
Whoa. Was Soul Calibur 6 playable, Bloodworth?
It was there.
It was playable?
Yeah.
Did you play it?
I didn't. This is also like right at the end of the show too.
Was Geralt playable?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Again, that booth was packed. Like,
all right.
Like imagine like layers of people, and then
Layers
like
of
Soul
fear.
Calibur in like this dense center of guys that are like probably not going anywhere. They're just camped out on that couch.
For sure. Fair enough.
But so yeah, he showed me this smaller partner game called Rite of Ilk. I think some indie devs working on it, and it's oh, and what was funny too is that they said that were having issues. Well, they're having issues with like a lot of screen tearing and stuff in the build, and so I was there on the last day. The night before, they'd actually like were in their hotel room and fixing the build, and they'd like put the build on the floor the next day without all the screen tearing. And
Oh my gosh.
So this is how crazy GDC is.
Boots on the ground.
But this was like, I think what he like his first comparison was like to basically to like Brothers, but you're actually co-op.
Cool. So like a way out.
Yeah, but it was more like in terms of like the way the world is built and like how you're controlling the game. It was kind of more that like more distant perspective.
Okay.
And I think the basic idea is that you're these like two kids that are like having to make some kind of offering to the gods of this world, and so like you're working your way through to get to wherever the place is at this end goal and complete the rites, whatever they may be. And apologies, I didn't actually take notes on this one because I just like played it with DK and then had to run off somewhere else.
Yeah.
But you're what they have you connected by a rope, and they said like that was part of like showing like your dedication to like being the ones to present the offering or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like everywhere you're going, you're like literally tethered to the other player.
Fun.
And so trying to figure that out, trying to work out puzzles. But at the same time, there's like a teleport button. So like if I like boost you up to like a cliff, then I can teleport up to you.
Oh, okay.
Which
You don't have to like climb.
yeah, you don't have to like pull the other person up or anything like that. But it was funny. I was kind of trolling him a little bit. Because like there would be places where like there'd be some like pillar or something. I'm like I start wrapping the rope around as much as I can because you could do that. Like it actually has physics and stuff.
That's fun.
So
This sounds delightful.
yeah. So
Bossman.
some little environmental puzzles and things like that. I didn't play a whole lot of it, but yeah, something to keep an eye on, see how it develops.
Cool.
Next up, I have a really quick rapid fire section here because it was very quick and rapid fire when I went through it. I went to a publisher named Palladius, and they were offsite. They were at a hotel room, and it's actually after the show floor closed that I did this appointment. Show floor closed at 3:00 on Friday, and I had an appointment at 5. And just kind of an overall thing I have to say is that, like I said, like a lot of the games that you see at GDC, you can really see that the like works in progress. Or like some things like UI might not be that great or whatever. I was actually pretty impressed with like how together a lot of these games are, even though they're smaller games in their lineup. But man, we just like dash through one after another. So I'll be going pretty quickly with this too. First one, and probably one of the ones I like the most, is called Old School Musical, and it's pays homage to a bunch of like classic games like Metal Gear Solid and Outrun and stuff like that. But it's the entire thing is a rhythm game.
Okay.
And so there's a story, but you're going through as a rhythm game and progressing through the levels by just like hitting the beats right.
Cool.
And there is one. The first one I did was you were battling an army of chickens. Like the chickens, kind of like out of Zelda, they're like, all right, we're tired of being abused. We're fighting back, and so like you're fighting the chickens. And then I did another one, and I guess one of the overall story things is like the world is like glitching out, and you're trying to like recompile the world or like put the world back in order. And so on the Outrun level, as you get further and further into the level, like the screen just starts getting more glitchy, like you would see like on a like old arcade cabinet or something.
Yeah.
But what I really appreciated about this game is not only does it have really good music that fits this kind of thing. They said like 20 levels and 50 songs.
Whoa. That's a lot of songs.
But the interface is just locked in and feels really good. Feels like you can follow it because like a lot of times like rhythm games, they get a little out there.
Yeah.
And so you pick it up and I don't know, what am I doing? There's like an
Yeah.
arc here and like I gotta hit this thing over there. And like this is like really simple. It's like you've got the 4 face buttons with stuff coming at you from each direction.
Cool.
And each direction is also color coded.
Okay.
So you can do tap, 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 hold down, like
Got
left,
it.
right. And then there's also the shoulder buttons, which are like gray bars that go along with it. But it's very, very intuitive and pretty fun. And it also has a co-op mode.
Nice.
So like you're both hitting the prompts together, and then it kind of averages
Cool.
out your scores and shows which one of you were is actually the better player at the end.
Nice.
The next one is from a French developer. It's called Away, Journey to the Unexpected. And they call it a feel-good FPS at one point. I don't think FPS is quite the term
Good.
I would
this.
necessarily. It's first person, but it's more like a first-person RPG, more like Skyrim-ish kind of thing. But what's kind of different about it, and I was surprised at like how good it looks, is the world is 3D and your exploration is in 3D, but the characters are like literally like 2D like anime drawings.
Okay.
So-
Feeling good.
Yeah,
Feeling
yeah.
good.
So there's definitely like a lot of. I feel like I got like a little bit of an Inuyasha vibe out of the look of the characters and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely like feel good is definitely part of the whole vibe. Like these spiders come up and attack you, and they're like the cutest spiders you've ever seen in your life.
We'll see about that. We'll show them to
yeah.
Ben.
The main character that I had, you're just attacking with like a stick, just whacking stuff with a stick. But then he pointed me out to go to there's this tree, and like some kind of runoff from someplace like mutated this tree, and he's just like, you seem like a good guy, but I'm really fighting off the urge to like fight you. I just want to fight you. But you recruit him to your party,
Yes.
and he actually like lays down what he does. He's like puts out like this like plant mines, like there's like field of bombs like floating in the air
Yeah.
that enemies run into. But what's crazy when you're playing as the tree, like the whole world goes into like this alternate vision. It's like this weird like sepia tone. Like they were trying to imagine like if a tree got eyes, like well, how could it see? So like every character like that, like the world looks kind of different to them
Very
when you're playing
neat.
as them.
Very neat.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like that. I think those two are probably the like two
That one sounds delightful.
I look forward to the most out of that group. They also had a game called Hover, which is very clearly like trying to recapture Jet Set Radio vibes. So
Cool with that.
yeah, you've got like you're rollerblading around and doing quests and like trying to get certain places, like racing people and stuff like that. And there's this big city, and I think at some point like your goal is to like try to get way up to the top.
Yeah.
But it goes like really high. There's a lot of levels to the city. And then it's coming. So it came
radio
out.
hype.
It came out on PC last summer. It's coming to Switch and to consoles
Cool.
this summer.
Oh, this game's already out and Kyle doesn't know about it?
Yeah, it may only be in early access. Like a lot of times,
okay.
people tell me like, "Oh, the game's already out on PC," and then I look it up. It's like, "Oh, it's early access."
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Even quicker, BAFL, BAFL, which stands for Breaks Are for Losers.
Brakes or bricks?
Breaks.
Brakes.
So this
Okay.
is a top-down RC Pro-Am off-road type racing game.
Those type of brakes, like car brakes.
Yeah. Coming out real quick, April 19th. I played it on the Switch. I'm not sure what else it's coming out on, but like just really quick, fun arcade racing game. $5.
Nice.
$5 game.
Reminds you of off-road.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Love off-road.
And then, races are like only a minute long too. Like intentionally, like the race runs out at the end of a minute, and then like wherever you are at the end of that minute, that's what place you're in.
Cool.
There is. Oh, we got another Viking game for you.
Oh, let's hear it.
It's called Dead in Vinland,
Dead in Vinland.
and it's Viking-esque. It's also got like kind of a bit of that Banner Saga feel of like big character portraits and stuff. And it's a survival management game.
Oh, okay.
And so like you have this family that's just like trying to stay alive on this island.
Oh, this sounds so heavy.
And there's like layer 2D backgrounds and stuff as well. But like there's different workstations in your camp, so like you assign people to like help out with lumber or with cooking or with like blacksmithing or whatever, and you have to fetch water and you have to boil water every day, and keep up these systems, and then and they say like characters like that you recruit, like those can die in certain situations, but if anyone in your core family dies, like the core 4 people dies, then like that's it. That's game over. Yeah.
Jeez.
You have to keep the family alive.
Sounds brutal.
There is
survival games, no joke.
There's things to worry about are like injuries, fatigue, hunger, sickness, and depression.
Dude, heavy.
Yeah. There are relationships between the different characters. And then outside of camp, one of the roles that somebody can do is they can be an explorer.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's like a grid-based map of the island, and you kind of like click on places for them to go, and then they'll come back with various resources and such. And they also showed a scenario where a gang of bandits came back they followed the explorer back to your camp.
Whoa.
And so like you've got to try to negotiate with them, to either like push them off or like assert your role or whatever, and you can actually choose which of the characters will do the speaking. And so that like has this crazy knock-on effects where it's going to affect how the bandits perceive you, but then based on that interaction, like you weren't able to talk them down, so like your son's kind of lost confidence in you, kind of. Yeah, it's like not necessarily in you, but in the father, because you're controlling all of them. But it's like all of these weird little dynamics to worry about. So yeah, it's interesting game.
Mm-hmm. Giving me this War of Mine vibe.
Oh, this is coming out April 12th. That's quick.
It's really quick.
And there is turn-based combat as well.
Okay.
When you're fighting them, and so if somebody loses in combat, they don't die, but they're injured,
like knocked down or something.
Yeah, but it's more specific than that, because like they can have
shot or stabbed.
They can have like a leg injury that will keep them from doing certain things, or an arm injury. Like so, your injuries will diminish your ability to contribute to the camp.
So you want to avoid conflict, probably.
Probably, yeah. If they break your jaw, they said it makes it hard to eat. Like, this is how crazy some of these it's gonna do, man.
My God. Break your jaw, you can't eat.
And the last one that I saw but didn't really play, they just played a trailer for me of a game coming out called Jengo. And it was not the last one. It was the last one in my quick Playdius group. It's point and click adventure, makes a lot of game references, being made by 2 guys in South Africa who are kind of like, a lot of it is like making fun of modern games through like an old school like LucasArts kind of point and click adventure, very like heavy metal vibes and stuff like that going on there, and very like mature audience, mature jokes. So but then the last one, the one I've saved for last, is a game that has only recently been announced, and it's coming from ex-Hitman devs. And this is called Mutant Year Zero, Road to Eden. And apparently Mutant is a Swedish pen and paper RPG.
Okay.
So the world is not original, but the gameplay is all on them. And it looks really good, dude. I'm really impressed by like how good this game looks. And it's essentially going off of kind of like an XCOM style of strategy game, but with a big world to explore. So it's like you're kind of walking through, you're checking out locations, you're exploring different areas, and then you've got you'll come across enemies, and then like you can sneak up on enemies and initiate combat. It seems like most encounters you want to try to stealth attack as much as you can.
Definitely.
And they showed like at night there's like a ring, like an awareness ring around enemies, and like if you have a flashlight on, like the ring will be bigger and they'll see you easier and that kind of thing. But yeah, so this is like very post-apocalyptic world. There's this city called the Ark, and then what do they call the people going out? The people who venture outside of the city are called stalkers, and they are also mutants. So there is like a boar-headed guy named Borman, and there is a giant Daffy Duck-looking duck named Dux.
Sick.
As these characters.
Awesome.
And then there was a more like humanoid, but I don't think exactly human character as well. Mm-hmm. But they talked, somewhat about, like the world and backdrop and stuff. And like you go out on missions, you can get different quests from people in the Ark. Or like I think they're saying like the bartender, like if you can find him like a working like refrigerator or something out there. But it also seems like there may be some element where the leadership isn't telling you everything. I'm curious how that's gonna go, because there's this sense that like they're saying is like, yeah, like the whole world, like nothing out there is is safe. Like we're the only people left alive, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, like,
Lies.
There's something fishy. There's something fishy going on there. The world's very detailed, like good lighting, like lots of like lush foliage and stuff, and like the world looks very overgrown.
Yeah.
And then let's see. There's and then you like as you progress with your characters, like they get different mutations, and so Dux has a mutation where he like sprouts moth wings. And so he can fly up in the air, and he's more of like a sniper character, and so he can fly up in the air and get like high ground.
Sick.
Like that.
Ducks.
Yeah.
MVP right now.
And then he said, and you explore in real time, but when you go into combat, it's turn-based.
I like that.
It goes back to real time instantly afterwards.
It's great.
There's a little bit of the over the corner. Over the shoulder kind of aiming. Dux also has a like skill that like is good against robots. Selma is the other character. She can use vines to like reach up out of the ground and like hold an enemy in place for a certain number of turns, and like so that works really well. And then Borman can do like a stone skin, and so for a certain number of turns, he just won't take any damage at all. He can just run in and like really tank out at an enemy.
Awesome. Sounds like my kind of guy.
Let's see. I've got so much on this game. One thing that was I really liked was the destructibility in the environment. So like old barns and stuff like that. That you hide behind, you take cover, but like you toss a grenade over there and like that whole like half of the building is gone.
I love that. I love that so much because sometimes in these real-time strategy games you have like basic cover that you can kind of like shoot at and it'll blow up, but for it to react that drastically sounds like quite a game changer.
Yeah, and then they had so I guess what's out there, maybe Selma's a ghoul, because like you fight a lot of what they call ghouls. So like basically humans that have been mutated or whatever. But so they were like, they were trying to. So you're trying to get a generator from this ghoul camp, but they were using the generator to power up this big robot. And so what you're able to do in this scenario is you're able to sneak around the backside of this barn where the robot is being housed, and you were able to like flip the switch on the robot, so it went from attacking enemies to attacking everybody. And so then you use the robot to your advantage to like take out the rest of the soldiers. Yeah. And so they had so there's a big robot there. There's a pyro guy. There's just a normal rifle guy, and then there's this heavy guy who can he can also just like smash through walls. And then there was a boss type of character as well. The robot would just be smashing through walls. And then and then also with the cover mechanic, there's like a hide system, so that if you're hiding, the enemy will be less likely, like before combat starts, the enemy will be less likely to see you before like you've alerted everybody basically, unless they're like right on top of you. Oh, I gotta talk about this too. Really good loot animation. Because what happens is like you like hit that guy, you kill him, his body gets knocked back, and as the body falls back, then this bag flies up out of his chest and does like a little flip, and then like hits the ground with a thud, and it just like that's a good kill. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Excellent.
So
essential.
Look out for that. Yeah.
Is it color coded? Some gold popping
They
out.
also have like a good indicator of like to keep you from like wandering into somebody's Overwatch. They've got like a nice like red line, so it's like no, that guy's like watching that area, so it's like don't just like rampantly click on that without realizing it. There was they also showed a part where like one of the weapons did like knockback, so there was so the pyro guys can like actually explode and like do damage on other guys. So what they were able to do was knock one of them off of like a tower, and then they hit the ground, and then they exploded, and they also like hit another dude at the same time.
Combos.
Yeah. And then the robot lit one of the buildings on fire, so you had to like watch out for that. And then like I said, Dux was able to do like a EMP kind of thing on the robot. So once they cleared out like all the regular ghouls,
shuts them down for like a couple turns.
Basically put them into like a stasis so that like okay, let's take this robot out now so we can get our generator and move on.
Cool.
But I just even though like Dux is kind of weird and like this talking boar, like these are kind of weird characters to me. I really like the look of the game and the gameplay, and like I feel like it's going to be a cool world to explore and check out.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. So Mutant U0.
Mutant U0. I'm gonna look it up. Sounds great.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get B-roll and stuff
Nice.
to like try to put as much of that on top of this as possible. So
cool.
You can check it out.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty much my GDC. Also went to see Kind of Funny, and that was fun.
Yep.
Be in their studio where you were just a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
So good times. Good
GDC.
times in San Francisco.
I've never been, but I would love to go. It seems really cool.
For sure. Thanks everyone.